Hello, Internet. Welcome to Only Lovers Book Club. I'm Chris, and I'm here with my two best friends, Apocatits and Tushy Good Bitch. Um, and we're going to talk about a romance book. It's our first hangout of 2021. And what we normally do is one of us will pick a book, we'll all read it, and at the end of the month, we'll talk about it, and whoever chose the book has some questions for us. If you're on YouTube, you're going to see that I've acquired a prop. I am a victim of the horseman. I've been crushed by his killer plans.
The main character in this book gets beaten up many times. People get beaten up a lot. She gets stabbed a few times, but I'm not really good at that might be a challenge for 2021 is to buy the like little silicone putty makeup and like try to learn how to give myself wounds. Like that might be a nice makeup challenge. But for now, I try to give myself the look of someone who's uh been beaten up by the horsemen's like dudes. And I also have so in the book they're always drinking like dark liquor, right? And I don't really drink a lot of dark liquors or anything, but when I was coming back from my trip to Puerto Rico, I did grab a bottle of their like quote unquote moonshine slash rum that has tamarindo in it. And I just had this is the tamarind liquor with some soda and lemon. Oh my God, this tastes so good. It tastes like a tamarind iced tea. Like it does not taste like liquor at all. This thing is tasty AF. And like this, I'm gonna send you guys a bottle of this because I'll double check what the ingredients are just to make sure. But this is so tasty. I was like, why not? Let me just make a cocktail before book club. Like, let's try this. I haven't tried it before. Holy shit. And they do it with passion fruit and coconut and a bunch of other flavors too. So like,
yeah, I think I know what brand you're talking about.
It's a little glass jug.
Mm-hmm.
It has the little tiny handle. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna get this and be like charra and just like buy this thing that looks cute. But oh my God, it tastes so good. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not drinking anything or am dressed up with anything because I've been in quarantine this week, so I couldn't go anywhere. Which is why also, if you've noticed, I am not sitting next to Chris, which we usually are because we are next door neighbors and we've pretty much bubbled the entire pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But I cannot today. So hopefully my internet won't go out on me because sometimes it does, and that's the main reason I go over to Chris.
That's okay. We'll make it work. I also wanted to show off something from our Christmas time. So Drea gifted me and Tosh and herself, even though she can't find them right now, a pair
Yeah,
of
all my
earrings,
stuff is packed. So I don't know.
a pair of earrings that have our three favorite book club reads on them. She kind of like surreptitiously asked us, what's your favorite book that you've read for book club? And so I think this is Tashai's The Golem and the Genie. And mine's is The Ghost Bride, because dragon boyfriend slash husband or whatever. And then coincidentally, so that's Drea's favorite, and that's Pestilence. And just so happens, I'm a master of segues. The book that we read in January is part of that series. It's part of the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse series by Laura Thalassa. And we're in the third horseman. So we read Pestilence back in Vaginal Fantasy days. Drea picked War. And we read that on our Rogue Only Lovers days. And so here we are, three horsemen's down, one to go. I'm going to read a little bit off. They won't. Let me read a little bit off of the author. I'm not sure if this is like her actual name, but let's just go with it. So this is from her website, her about site. It says, found in the forest when she was young, Laura Thalassa was raised by fairies, kidnapped by wolves, and given over to vampires as a repayment for a 100-year debt. She's been brought back to life twice, and with a single kiss, she woke her true love from eternal sleep. She now lives happily ever after with her undead prince in a castle in the woods, or something like that anyway. When not writing, Laura can be found scarfing down guacamole, hoarding chocolate for the apocalypse, or curled up on a couch with a good book. And then there's some links to her newsletter. So that's about her.
Well, I don't know if she's the only author ever, but at least that I can think of, she's the only self-published author that we've read. And Only Lovers? I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to go back through the archives.
What about the T-Rex lady?
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't count that as like.
And Alice in Wonderland, I think, is also self-published. I don't think that has.
Okay. Let me amend that. This is the most
successfully self-published.
Successfully self-published, both in terms of
quality.
She's very prolific. She has multiple series published, and all of them seem to have like a following of people who like buy them and read them and leave reviews. And like, I honestly wouldn't have ever known she was self-published if I hadn't gone on her website. Whereas Taken by the T-Rex, I automatically assumed was a self-published venture.
Yeah, she's got a couple of series: The Fallen World, The Bargainer series, and then the Four Horsemen series, which we're making our way through. Ana da Silva always assumed she'd die young. She just never expected it to be at the hands of Famine, the haunting immortal who once spared her life so many years ago. But if the horseman remembers her at all, he must not care, for when she comes face to face with him for the second time in her life, she's stabbed and left for dead. Only she doesn't quite die. If there's one thing Famine is good at, it's cruelty, and how these blighted bastards deserve it. Try as he might, he can't forget what they once did to him. But when Anna, a ghost from his past, corners him and promises pain for what he so recently did to her, she and her empty threats captivate him, and he decides to keep her around. In spite of themselves, Anna and Famine are drawn to each other, but at the end of the day, the two are enemies. Nothing changes that. Not one kind act, not two, and definitely not a few steamy nights, but enemies or reluctant lovers, if they don't stop themselves soon, heaven will. Famine by Laura. And I mean, I read that, I guess. I read that. So Drea.
Yes. You got gold star, right? You did, yeah.
Yeah. Drea finished first.
Okay.
Yeah, I did finish first.
And you got
bronze.
That's okay. So why'd you pick this book? I already know, but tell the audience in case it's their first time. In case this is their first horseman.
You know, it's funny because I feel like I have very specific reading tastes that like focus on a certain kind of book, but then you will find me spending hours upon hours of my life watching total trash like Love Island, and I'm like obsessed with it. The UK and Australia versions, because I cannot access the US version without paying. Thank you, Hulu. But so I put these books in that category of like, I don't know why. I cannot explain it to myself, but I am obsessed with them in a similar way as I am obsessed with Love Island. I cannot look away from the carnage. I know it's going to be the exact same thing every single time, and I'm okay with that. I'm just there. I'm there for the journey. And so, you know, War delivered exactly what I thought it was going to. And so I thought, why not do it a third time with Famine? And actually, this was my favorite of the 3 books so far. And I am looking forward to the 4th book. So you're welcome for voluntarily forcing you to come with me on this apocalyptic journey.
So following on that, since this is your favorite, why don't you give us kind of like I know it's your favorite, give me your overall impressions, and then we can go in order of like, you know, who finished. I can go next, and then Tashai can go. So what were your overall impressions of this book?
Yeah, so my overall impressions were, I don't want to go into a ton of detail because there's a lot of stuff I'm going to bring up in the questions, but basically it followed the same kind of plot that we were introduced to in the first 2 books. So it was I like that it was predictable in the sense that I knew where it was going to go, right? We've read this story 2 times before, but it also kind of brought a new like freshness to it. Like it had a couple of things that the other two books didn't. And so I still found myself like a little bit surprised. And I just really liked, I mean, I don't remember what I rated the other ones. But I think this is the one I rated the highest. Just because I liked Famine. He's been my favorite horseman so far. I liked his personality. I liked that he could do shit with plants. That's a surefire way to win me over. 100% there for all the Vine sexy times. And like I said, I just liked that it was like the same predictable story, but with like a couple of new things sprinkled in, you know, like she said, oh, I'm gonna, you know what, I'm gonna try something new this time, but also give my audience exactly what they want. And that's what I felt like she did.
Cool. Before I started reading, I sent to Shai this page on my notebook, and I said, this is what I think is going to happen in this book. I took a picture, and I sent it to her. This is my predicted plot. And it says, girl has encounter with horseman, revenge related. Girl tries and fails to kill horseman. Horseman takes in girl because reasons. The Horseman horror tour begins. The horseman says, you can't stop the inevitable. Stop trying to change me. Oh no, the atrocities, but he's so hot. Rinse, repeat. The chick maybe makes a friend. Oh no, the atrocities, but he's so hot. More atrocities, death, threats. Repeat as needed. Cycle through these various times. Inevitable sexy times. Somebody comes close to killing the chick or the horseman. It doesn't matter. Is there success? There's fighting. Who cares? Now life has new meaning for the horseman. I guess humans aren't so bad after all. Intro new horseman. And
yay!
I read that book.
I definitely read that book. So yeah, it is definitely a predictable story.
You forgot to the inevitable stop at a little cottage in the woods.
Yeah, you know what? I was giving her the benefit of the doubt. There's a bathtub, you know, like I was like, maybe this book won't have a bathtub, but it did, and it's okay. So, I mean, if you've listened to our past episodes or just even a recent one where we just kind of like anticipating reading about this, I'm not like a super huge fan of the series. I think precisely because whereas I do find comfort in like repeated tropes, the books in this series are so repetitive, so predictable, and are just full of things that offend me on a personal human level that I just like hate.
Yeah, I feel like it's become clear to us that while you do like the enemies to lovers trope, you don't like it when it involves massive genocide.
Yeah, I feel like there's bad boys and then there's like bad guys. Like this guy is a villain, and I always find it super hard. I think that I give Pestilence a pass because it was like the first thing I'd read and I was like, fuck. And then I read War and I was like, shit, okay, I guess Pestilence wasn't that bad. And then I read Famine and I'm like, you know what? I guess, you know.
I feel like we talked about this in a previous chat. It may have been when we read War, where Tashai and I were like, yeah, we'd sleep with them. I mean, you know,
I said I'd rather die.
Keeps us alive. We'd like ride along. We'd be their mate. And then Chris was like, I would commit suicide.
I would commit suicide. I would have him kill me. And you were like, ask Amanda. And I looked at my sister. My sister was like, it's okay. And I'm like, I know. So anyway, I knew that a discussion would be fun, but reading the book for me wasn't like fun. But it was also just like a fast read. I read it on Kindle Unlimited, and it was the same shit I read before. And I made a joke to Tasha. And I'm like, this is the shit that like women that write to people in prison read. You know what I mean? Like the women that write to serial killers in jail. And like I had just watched the Night Stalker documentary, and that guy had a lot of groupies, and he was so vicious and vile. And there were still people willing to throw themselves at him because fame is attractive, and because, you know, people are good and they want to try to find the good in people. And I was like, this series is for that kind of person. that person isn't me. And if that's your thing, I don't like, if Dre is like, I want to read the next 5 Horsemen books, I'm not going to be like, no, I'm not going to read it. I mean, at first I've given up on the inevitable. I don't want to yuck on anyone's yums. This genre is just not for me.
So am I the kind of person who would write to a serial killer?
Yes. I think that
if you were doing it to avenge animals that were slaughtered.
I mean, yeah, I think
rainforest.
I just mean like that kind of mentality. I mean, whatever. If that's like if that's your jam, I'm not going to stop you from doing it. I'm just not going to lick your stamps, is what I'm saying. So, what about you, Taj? What were your impressions?
I knew what this book was going to be. I didn't expect any surprises. Honestly, with all the stuff in this book that like is repetitive or is problematic, my biggest pet peeve, and she does this in every fucking book, is the repeated use of the fucking nicknames.
And you hate that in every book.
I hate that in every
book. Once I discovered what the nickname was going to be, knowing how Tashai felt about this, I did a search on the Kindle. And I looked up how many times Famine says flower. And he says it. A total. Because I also checked like some like eliminating any possible laughable attempts at describing the scenery. 83 times. The word flower appears 83 times, and I want to say like 99% are referring to Anna. Anyway.
Oh my God. It's like one of my biggest pet peeves. Like I hate when in the span of a sentence you use 2 words that are similar enough that it sounds like the same word is being used, like introducing an intro, like when you have 2 words that are close enough that it sounds repeated. And I hate the fucking repeat use of like, we get it. You're endeared to this person. You love them. You're developing affection for them. You're going to give them a nickname to tease them. Like, you have the rest of the fucking dialogue to show me that you have developed feelings for this person and that the relationship is there. I don't need to read the fucking nickname 7 times in 1 page. It got to the point where I started reading sentences willfully cutting out the nickname as I was reading it or tweaking it as I was reading it. And it helped so much. And it would cut so much from this book if you just eliminated the unnecessary use of certain words and sentences, because I felt this book was long. Like this book was very long to me, and considering how not complicated the plot is, like I don't understand how this book was so long, because it got to the point where they were traveling together.
I'm telling you gotta get that payment per page on the Kindle books.
Apparently, because I got to a point where I was like, wow, okay, this happened. Lo que falta is this, and this. And I look, and I was like 47% of the way through the book. And I thought to myself, what the fuck else is left to happen here? I don't understand. And so they ended up just like having a lot more of these encounters where they would show up to a city and destroy it, I think, to just pad the book.
It's the Horseman Horror Tour where they go and then it's like, oh, this time it's gonna be different, and then it's not.
I want
I felt that way too when like they finally like get together and he's like, you know, been changed or whatever, and I'm like, wait, we're only like 70%. You know what I mean? I was like, wait, but like this is normally the ending of the other books.
Yeah, and then they just like have sex a bunch of times, which I'm like that's fine. It was fun. Like eventually it gets to a point where like I would have rather have it sprinkled throughout the book than like shoving all of these sex scenes right at the very end, because then it's like the same thing with the nickname. Like I'm not getting anything from this story-wise. Like you would have been better off them hooking up and like begrudgingly being sexually attracted to each other throughout this and then eventually becoming romantically involved than having 28 sex scenes in the last like 20% of the book, because it just doesn't make sense given like all the intense stuff that's happening, like her trying to convince him to stop murdering all these people. It was just like the only reason I gave it 3 stars, and the only reason I gave it 3 stars is because there were some genuinely funny lines. Like her trying to get him to understand that she needs to eat food, and he like comes over and gives her water and a slice of like melon, and she looks at it, and I highlighted it. She's like, "I'm a full-bodied woman, not a bird." Because that to me is like funny. Like, okay, yeah, Famine needs to understand that she's a human being and has needs. And then every time that kind of came up and he got irritated, like, oh fuck yeah, I guess you have to use the bathroom. Like, I thought that was kind of funny. And so I rated it 3 stars, like 3 1/4 star, because some of the copy was like funny. Like I did find it funny, but if I could go through this with like a red pen and just like clean it up and shift some stuff around, I feel like I could get this to 4 stars. As far as the chemistry and stuff,
wait. I'm gonna stop you there because that's one of my questions. So
okay.
Say the question and then you can talk first. Gotcha. Because I was gonna start with that one anyways when you talked about how like all the sex was at the end. So one of my questions was, or one of my statements, I guess, was that this book was arguably like a much slower burn romance than the other two. How did you feel? Like, did that work for you? Was there enough chemistry? Did you ship them? Why or why not? Because like you said, in the other books, they definitely get physical earlier, but it's I still hate you. I'm just being physical, but I still hate you. Whereas here, you're right. It's a much slower burn until it like explodes in the end.
Well, so once I started like getting through it and understanding that his whole characterization is like, I hate people and I'm here to destroy people, which I still don't understand how that distinguishes him from War and Pestilence. Like they've given them these personality traits, and the way they explained like, well, war comes from people and Pestilence has always been curious about people. Like, how does anyone know any of this if they've just appeared for the first time? Like, how did y'all develop these personalities? Punto y se acabó. But anyway, so the fact that he's like, I hate people, like, fine. I thought she was stupid because when she first meets him, it's not like she doesn't know who he is. She knows who he is, and she's like, oh, I'm going to help this poor man because he's here and he's struggling. I'm like, you're helping him because you think he's hot, I guess, even though he's missing limbs. But also, like, I get you've had a difficult life and, like, you're living with your aunt who abuses you and, like, your life is pretty shitty, but how do you not understand what you're doing by helping a horseman of the apocalypse who is here to literally kill everybody? Like, everyone is going to die. You're gonna die too, you stupid bitch. Like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm just gonna help him. And then she's somehow shocked when he gets his strength back and starts going on his murder tour. It's like, ¿qué tú esperaba? ¿Qué tú esperaba? Like, I really do not understand the way they like set up them meeting and like traveling, and then she like gets it through her thick fucking skull that he's here to just kill everybody, and suddenly she's like, oh, I can't go with you, whoops. Like, honestly, this is all probably her fault. Like, I blame her for like most of the people who died in this book because she didn't just go back home. She should have just gone back home. Maybe he wouldn't have healed as quickly. Maybe she would have been able to go somewhere else. Yo no sé. But the blood of the people in her town is on her hands for being a fucking entrometida. And then him being like, I don't remember you. Stab, stab, stab. And then afterwards being like, oh, actually, I do remember you. But I drink a lot, even though I never get drunk. I'm like, okay, do you get drunk or do you not get drunk? Because you drink a lot and you say that it helps forget, but you also are never drunk. So, like, there were a lot of like loose ends about this relationship that I just didn't get it. And my last thing I'm going to complain about, and then I'm good. She was very like, I'm a prostitute and I'm sex positive and like sex.
That's one of my questions too.
And he's like not into it, and I don't know, like that also wasn't cute to me. It was like annoying. Like I found her needling him annoying because at that point he's not into her yet. He's just kind of like, well, you saved me, I'm returning the favor. I have like some affection for you in a way because you saved my life. But like it got to a point where I'm like, every line that you're saying is like a dick joke. And this is annoying when people I like in real life. Like if I met someone like this, I would be very annoyed by this person and I can't just kill them. Why are you gonna be this annoying to someone who could just fucking destroy you? Like, cállate, Dios mío. Anyway, chemistry, meh, didn't understand where it came from. Didn't
So,
make sense to me.
Chris, Tashai talked about 3 of my questions in one. So I'm gonna say
Oh,
the other
boy.
2, and then you can talk about all 3 as well.
Oh, okay.
So the first one was the
Wait,
slow burn chemistry.
chemistry. If the slow burn chemistry worked for me, because I also forgot what the question was when I was listening to Tashai's answer.
It's okay. So that was question 1.
Okay.
We also talked about my other question. How did you feel about the character being a sex worker? Did you like it? Did you not like it? How did you feel about the rep? Tashai was a no, too many dick jokes. And then the other one was I said, this was the first book that introduced trauma on the part of both characters. Did that make them more likable? Why or why not? Tashai said, no, the blood of your people is on you. Fuck you.
Got it. So chemistry, sex worker rep, trauma. Okay. So it's hard because I always read the Horseman as exactly the same person with like a slightly few variances. I will say that Famine was giving like way more Grinch vibes than everybody else. I like that. I did think that he was grumpier and had more of a sense of humor, like a dry sense of humor than the other two. Um, and I thought that her jokes were were also annoying, but I also got why she would make so many of them just because of her past. And I kind of chalked it up to defense mechanism, right? You know, sometimes when we're in a terrible situation, we default to humor. And the kind of situation that she had found herself in, as Tashai mentioned, by her own idiotic benevolism, just I remember I also wrote a note here where I literally put where is it? She put LOL, she saves him because he might be a good person. Insert I've made a huge mistake as he gets up and murders her entire town. So yeah, I got that, you know, she would make these jokes and slowly, I guess, despite my best efforts to yell at her through the screen of my Kindle, to like minimize their toxic relationship, right? So, you know, he's evil and a murderer and a psychopath and an angelic being that we don't like truly understand, whose motives we can't understand. And she's basically like she's a smart woman who just had unfortunate circumstances and finds herself captured by this guy. And I think that the jokes are like there to like ease us into a sense of like acceptance, the same way that I guess she would too, where it's like, look at all these jokes she's making. She can't be having that bad of a time if she's like talking about putting her finger in his ass, you know? So
I will say, all the way close to nearing the end of the book is when you realize she's 22.
yeah.
So that's another thing that after I will say, had I known how old she was earlier in the book, it would have helped me with my perspective of how I had experienced her as a person, because early 20s, y'all are dumb. Like, you're dumb.
But also, she started her sex work very young, so
she was 17.
Yeah, she's so it was a big chunk of her life, and it just made sense to me in the universe of the book. The universe that the book was creating for me, that their relationship would work. He's like the grumpy one, and she's like the spunky one, and he's committing atrocities, and she's just forgiving him because there's good in everybody, right?
She's just throwing up.
And as far as her being I think it's a double-edged sword. I admire the audacity of the author trying to go places where she clearly has and won't ever go. I mean, who knows? I'm not sure, but I read her author bio. I don't know if that's the kind of person she is. And it just felt like, okay, cool. Now this doesn't have to be the same character that we had from the first two books. This is going to be someone who's not scared of sex with the horsemen, so it'll make it easier. I did like it that it took forever for them to fuck, despite the fact that she was a sex worker. I thought that was a cool touch. But I mean, whatever. At the end of the day, like it was just kind of like a basis it was kind of like setting up the ground, like, oh yeah, he like totally killed all of my family. But then again, they used to beat me, so like I guess it's okay that he did that. And oh my god, I was working at this like brothel for a long time, and sure, it was the only home that I had, but like it was still a brothel, so I guess at the end of the day it's okay that he killed everybody there too. And so I guess it was a thing that happened. And if anything, like moving into the trauma stuff, like how he's got trauma and so does she, I do get that they're both like really flawed characters. I just wish that at this point in the story, like all of the horsemen have gone through like life-death cycles, right? So it's like if we're in the series, we already know that this is going to happen, and he's going to be super hard, impossible to kill. And the fact that he was like super tortured at the start of the book, or at the perceived start of the book, plays a lot into it. But there's like no exploration at all. There's not even like there's a chance here to really talk about that. And it's kind of like, oh, you saved me at the end. And oh, we had like this stuff, but now we found each other despite it all, even though you created this problem. You're 100% responsible for all of the strife right now, says Anna to Famine. And I think that there wasn't enough like digging into it. I felt frustrated because, like I said, we've tread this ground before, so I'm expecting a little more nuance in their kind of like interactions, and there wasn't any of that. And then ultimately, when we get to the end of the book, there's like a missed opportunity here for world building that I just cannot get over. And I felt the same way at the end of War, where I'm like, okay, what's going on? Why am I in the third book and I still have no idea what God's endgame is? What's going on here? And it just kind of falls apart the more that I think about it. But I definitely think that there was more chance to explore that. I just don't feel like it was done in a really good way, in a way that like, yeah, this is my third book and I think I can talk about this now. It's like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm going on forever, but I feel like at the end, the horsemen always get what they want. Maybe the one exception would be this book, right? Where they do something completely unforgivable by humanity's standards. And they still get the prize of the girl. They get to be forgiven. They get a family. They get to move on. And they're never held accountable for all the shit that they did. They just go and live a quiet life. They don't go and like try to rebuild or try to like do anything. There's no reparations. And that's also kind of like factors into everything, kind of like how, sure, I did a bad thing and I guess I don't even feel guilty about it. I don't even feel bad about it at the end. I don't care. I don't have to do anything about this anymore. I just am. The end. Oh no, here comes death. And that's how I feel, I guess, about all of them. I don't know if I did all of them, but I'm curious to know what you think about chemistry, all the three questions, Dre. I want to hear your stuff now.
I like the slow burn because it was just a little bit different from the previous few books. Um, and their chemistry like worked for me, and I don't know, I feel like I can see. I know one of the things that you don't like specifically, Chris, is how it's like constantly yo-yoing between like, oh my God, he like murdered a whole town and I hate him, to like, oh, but he's so handsome. But like, I feel like that's how people are in like traumatic situations.
And in Stockholm, and in
Yeah,
Stockholm
like
situations as well.
that's a thing, right? And so that part doesn't really like surprise me, or I don't think that's unrealistic, especially if they're like angelically beautiful, or they're all three of them are described as like crazily hot. Um so yeah, their thing worked for me. I really did like Famine's personality the best. I agree with you, Chris, like his little dry humor, like whenever he'd make like what could possibly be a sex joke, but she was like never sure. Like I love that shit. And she'd be like, wait, did he like joke about his dick? What? And then he'd just like walk away. So she would like never know. But I'm like, mm-hmm. Yeah, so he cracked me up. I did like their chemistry. The sex work thing, I like that it was there and that she like joked a lot about sex, but didn't actually like have sex until the end. But I do think that it was a missed opportunity to, it's like you said, Chris, I felt like it wasn't like explored enough. Like, oh shit, like this kid was like physically abused her whole life, and then she was basically taken in by this brothel and like used non-consensually, like in a statutory rapey kind of way. And like I don't think she even like realizes like how bad that that was. And so it's never really like addressed fully, because she sees it as like, oh, it's fine, it's like, sure, these men sometimes like beat me and like did shit to me, but like it's fine.
I will give Famine points where they're due. He, at several points
Yeah,
when
he's
he's sharing her
horrified
story,
by it.
he's like, that's fucked up, which
Mhm.
coming, I mean, I get it and I appreciate it, but like coming from a murder angel, I don't feel like he's like the
Because she's
authority.
pretty, because
Yeah.
he likes her, and that's the only time when anything bad happening like matters, is because she's like the one person that he's fixated on. But even when that happens, it doesn't give him empathy towards anybody else.
But
Yeah,
that, see, I saw that as like totally normal too, because he likes to think that he's not human, but like really, they're all very human-like, and that's what people do. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, how dare you insult my brother for this or that, but then they'll turn around and do the exact same thing to their neighbor. Like people only really care when it's someone that they care about who's like in the line of fire or whatever. So
when
I thought that was,
it's convenient for their interests.
yeah. So I thought it was like, yeah, that was like normal for me. The trauma thing I thought was interesting, not on her part necessarily, because I don't think we need any help setting her up as like the good guy. Like we already know she's like the good guy. We don't need to know she was abused or all these things to like cement that. But I think incorporating it for Famine is a little bit different than in the other books, because in the other books, like they're just flat out killed, or people attempt to kill them and then they come back. But this is the first book where like it seems like he was held for a really long time and just like flat out tortured. And it had like this huge effect on him. But for me, it fell a little flat, because I was like, well, that doesn't change. It would be different if he didn't want to kill the humans and then they did that to him and then that made him want to kill the humans. But no, he wanted to kill the humans before anyways. And then that happened. And then he just wanted to kill them more. But like he would have killed them no matter what.
Yeah.
So I think it served more for like Anna to be like, oh, that sucks. Like people did that to you. Oh shit. You know what I mean? Like, but it was only there to get her to feel more empathetic towards him. But I don't think it necessarily makes the reader feel more empathetic, because we know he was gonna kill everyone like anyways.
I was confused as to like the pain part of it though, because they're supposed to be these otherworldly beings who can't be killed, but like why would you give them the ability to like suffer?
Yeah, but
I mean,
that's what God does, right? Like he got his own son crucified and he bled out and he was in all this pain and shit. You know what I mean? Like that's I to me that's like on par with Christianity.
yeah, right. And like in his human form, right? To be human is to suffer. So they were definitely immortal, but their pain like receptors were 100% active. Wait,
I have a question though that
okay.
that was genuinely like a question that I asked myself the entire book.
Is it? I want to know if we have the same question. I'm gonna write my
Oh,
question down.
my question was who saved her when she got stabbed? Because in all the other books, they made it seem like Death was the one bringing these ladies back as part of some sort of whatever. And so I assumed in the beginning of the book that Death brought her back. But then by the end of the book, it's like 100% clear that it was not Death. That Death thinks this is a terrible idea. He's not on board with this plan. So, and it wasn't Famine because he had no idea she had even like died. So, who brought her back that very first time in the beginning of the book?
I'm going to say that that was holy intervention because clearly this series, my perspective on this series is that it's like, obviously it's a lesson for the horsemen. Like it's not just a lesson for humanity, it's a lesson for like the divine to be like empathetic and to understand humanity and to understand that like everyone can get redemption somehow, because then at some point she like speaks in angelic and she like says the word forgiveness in angelic, and that's been something that's happened in the other books where there is like a divine
Yeah, but then like, why
mechanism
would they
in
get
place.
sent to Earth in the first place if the
My
whole
guess,
point was
my guess is
Okay, pull out the conspiracy board to shy. Here's the red string.
whatever the plot of the last movie, Death is going to undo what's happened. And even though the Horsemen have killed millions of people, he's the only one who can bring people back. So my prediction is that he's going to like, to some degree, undo what's happened.
That's what I'm saying.
because they're gonna get him to fall in love or because they're gonna fight him.
I don't know if it's going to be because he falls in love with somebody, because at that point, like, I don't know that that can necessarily happen. Maybe it becomes a thing where the chapters swap places of them teaming up to figure out how to fight him, and then it like skips to his perspective, and we're seeing Death kind of like walking through and whatever. I don't know how like disconnected from any sort of emotion they're going
There's
to
no synopsis on Goodreads yet. I checked. So
wait.
I would really like it if the last book was like that, where we kind of like have the whole team come together, right? These like three couples.
Avengers.
Well, no, not the three. The two couples and the one bachelor. One, whatever. Well, she dies, right? So doesn't Anna die?
Ella
No.
regresó, ella regresó.
No, they run off. They gallop off to find his brothers.
Gotcha. So yeah, I want the three of them, the three couples, to get together and whatever endgame style. But it's not. I don't think that's gonna happen because like there's a precedent here. That's why it irks me so bad that all of the three books are exactly the same, because I feel like if we have been given any breadcrumbs or any puzzle pieces, they were too small for me to catch for what is going to happen. So anything can happen. And I feel like I'm not looking forward to anything. I'm like, okay, I don't care what, I just want to know.
Well, I do like that it ended with him galloping off to find his brothers, because it does seem like there's going to be some kind of reunion in the last book, whether it's to fight him or not, you know. And I wouldn't mind, like, I don't know. I just have this like image in my head of like all three brothers standing like awkwardly around, like, what's up? You know?
Yeah, but then you're gonna have all three women in the same narrative, and I'm not gonna know who's talking because all these women are the
You're gonna know who Anna is because she's gonna be saying the dick jokes.
She's gonna be making the dick jokes, and then War was dating like an older woman, right? Like she was in her 30s.
She's the fierce one, the one who will like go into battle.
Who tried to fight him and kill him.
Yeah. And then the first one was the most like innocent one.
Who loves to take a good bath.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. One's gonna be really clean. One's gonna be dirty because she's trying to fight people, and then Anna's gonna be like, dick.
She's gonna go into war, but with like a crop top.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then the brothers are gonna be cranky, and then again, either Death like does travel through the world killing people, and maybe like at every place he goes to, he gives people like one person the chance to plead humanity's case, and like maybe he meets somebody, or it's going to be the brothers teaming up to fight him, and every perspective you get from Death is going to be him being like, humanity, blah 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 blah, kill.
I also think it's interesting. So this book, I think, even though you're right, Chris, in that there's like barely any world building, I do think this book gave us slightly more context than the other books. Like I didn't realize to the degree with which like people had reverted to like old times in terms of like technology and that kind of stuff. So like now it makes more sense to me why all the countries were so like, because before I was like, how would you not know what country this horseman is in? Or how would you be surprised by him showing up? And now I'm like, okay, nobody has phones or internet or satellite. Okay, whatever. So like there's that. And then apparently like there have been gaps in between. Like, so nobody really knows like when it stops or when it starts because there's like no communication or whatever. But then now Death, it seems, is going to start like right now. So I don't know. You're right that I did want more of I wanted years. Like what year did this start? And then what year did each one, you know, like where's my little timeline? Mm-hmm. But I did have one like, well, I have one question left and one bonus question. Okay. So the serious question is, it said, for a horseman called Famine, there was no famine in this book, versus Pestilence, where he literally killed via pestilence, and War, who literally killed via war. So did you like that she had him deviate from like his like supposed or true killing method? Why or why not?
I mean, I feel like it was a cop-out almost. I feel like it was a cop-out. I think, I mean, and I don't know, maybe I'm not being fair, but I just think that she was maybe the author was trying to avoid hurting people or bringing up like actual, there are places, like not necessarily Brazil, mm-hmm. right? But like there are places, I mean, even in America, people are hungry, you know? And I think that actually bringing that aspect would have been like straying too close to the reality of what's happening now. I think if she had started with Famine and then like ended with Pestilence, she probably would have changed up. Like if she had released this book now, you know, with
there would be no Pestilence. It'd be like, abort,
there would be like, no, abort. Let's take a hiatus. We're not gonna release this book now, or like in the next. Do you know what I mean? And I truly think that it was like, I'm avoiding this PR landmine. You know what I mean? Of addressing an actual current like world issue. I thought it was cool. I thought the plant stuff was cool. Same way that I thought like war with the zombies was cool. Mm-hmm. And then but it also like it just irked me that it was like, you guys, you humans and your cell phones, you ruined the world. And you know, you ruined the world that we gave to you, and now we're gonna start over. Back in my day, we didn't have any cell phones, so here go your crops.
I just use my phone to find alternatives to making different recipes. What are you talking about?
I mean, you know, the world doesn't work like that either. You know, You know what I mean? Like we would be there if like we would be there. It would require something on like a horseman like level moment to actually have people, you know, change their methods and view on agriculture. But yeah, that's ultimately why I think that decision was made. You know, just to bring a twist to it. What do you think? That's my theory. I'm not saying that's right. You know, Laura, hit me up. Send me an email. I'm glad to know your motivation.
My counter perspective to that is that you can't make famine an offensive power. Like war, you can turn into like an attack. Pestilence, you can turn into attack. Famine is like the lack of food. It's like people not being able to eat, and you can't have him like show up somewhere and people instantly starve. Like unless his power would be to like extract like nutrients from people.
You couldn't have a horror tour if people aren't actually immediately dying.
If people aren't immediately dying. And so, yes, they mention him like killing crops and leaving the rest of nature alone to have the play of famine happening. But he can't attack someone with famine. Like I can't. You're snacky.
I can't famine you to death.
You're snacky now, but nothing you eat will fill you up.
It's not as sexy. It's not as sexy either. You know, like I can't like.
Yeah.
Like thinking about famine doesn't get me wet or anything.
Yeah, like you're gonna be
thinking about a warlord, I guess, like Khal Drogo vibes, I guess, you know.
Exactly. Like you're gonna be hungry for a few days and then like starving for a few days and then still alive for another few days.
Yeah. And with Pestilence again, it was like the novelty of the thing, and he was like almost like an innocent baby. So he had his charms. The famine, if not, he wouldn't have been fuckable if he was actually a famine.
Okay, but speaking of that's legit. My bonus question is like
fuckability.
No, you out of the three horsemen, like you have to pick if you had to be tied to one of them. So far in the series, which one would you pick? And committing suicide doesn't count, Chris. You have to pick. Kill me. If they said before you could commit suicide, you have to spend 2 weeks with one of them, like who would you pick?
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
I'll spend a weekend with one of them.
Oh, another fucking pet peeve is how many goddamn times did she describe his hair as caramel colored? I was like, I get it.
Because he looks exotic, you know?
Like, I get it. He has light brown hair.
I hear all these things. I would still pick Famine.
I would not.
Who would you pick, Chris?
I guess Pestilence, because special play. I got an earring with him on it now. You know.
Honestamente, I don't remember what any of them look like.
Okay, so Pestilence is like he looks like
Pestilence was the most
Brad Pitt and Troy. I pictured him like that. And then
this is what you need to remember. Pestilence is the one who like
he's the blonde one.
And angelic. And like people would instantly orgasm because it was just so like And then War was like the fuck you against the wall because I'm so violently sexy.
Oh God.
That's
true. Wasn't that like all of his sex scenes were like that?
I'm looking at the photos now. I just realized he's holding holding like a scythe. I thought he was holding a trident for some reason.
That also confused me because I know that he's got the scythe for like, you know, bringing down the crops. But whenever they called him the Reaper, I would like associate that more with death.
Yeah.
So I would be like,
the other Reaper.
The other Reaper, Reaper 2.0.
Estoy mirando foto. I guess on looks alone,
War.
Either War because he looks like Khal Drogo or Famine got a haircut because I don't like long hair. I don't like his hair being that long. So maybe give him a trim. Pestilence is just too pretty.
Yeah, I'll take that. Like his one redeeming quality.
Yeah, so I guess either War or like Famine if he gets
Okay,
angry.
but you do no, wait. You do War. Chris is Pestilence. I'm Famine. And then how fun would book 4 be if the 3 of us are meeting up and like fighting death?
For the next Horseman book, I want us to dress like our favorite horseman. I'm gonna get a blonde wig.
But
And I don't know.
They're literally all like.
I have a black wig. I do have a black wig.
We'll hook you up, Drea. You've got the hair. We'll just put a filter on you. You've got his haircut, that little poodly haircut that he's got in the cover. His hair looks bad. Your hair looks good, but like it's the same like length. You know what I mean?
No sé, I gotta look at the Famine cover.
Tiene que pasarte blower un poco.
Yeah, just you know.
Loose beach waves. That's what Famous hair.
Loose
beach waves.
Yeah.
Bueno, okay. I guess I could. We could do like a little sports bra kind of thing, and then draw the tats.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we can make them out of the stencil. Look, we've got time. I don't know when the next book is coming out.
I guess if you look at the cover of the book, if I photoshopped Ivan onto it, like he could look like that. Le pongo pelo largo y un 8-pack. El más que se parece.
I mean, just by virtue of being a man, I think we're okay. We're gonna be fine. I have a question.
What's your question?
It's a dumb question, but I want to know what you think. Does Famine poop?
No.
No, because he doesn't eat.
Right. Well, he does kind of like partake. So like when she put her finger in his ass that one time that she was giving him the blowjob with the vines, it didn't smell like anything.
Clean.
When Drea was like, I have a question, I've been thinking about it. I'm like,
that is definitely not the question I was thinking about. Not even close.
I was haunted by that. I was like, wait a minute, he doesn't eat. And you know, she was trying all her tricks on him, and I was like, wait a minute, like la apestó el dedo cuando lo sacó, no caga, no apestó nada. Of course, he's an angel.
She's like, he came in all sweaty and stuff, but he like just looked hot and didn't smell. I'm like, you got a clean bowl.
Of course. Yeah, that was the most pressing question I had. So does Famine poop? I just, you know, because it comes up to where she's like, I gotta go, and he's like, whatever, and she's like, don't you have to go? And I'm like, no.
I also thought it was funny when near the end of the book, she's like, he just loves going down on me, and like it's fine, but also like, And I thought that it was funny because the explanation is like, I'm not used to everyone just like paying attention to me and giving. I'm used to sex that's like a transaction. And I'm like, I feel like I would also get tired of every day him just wanting to go down on me for hours. It's like, can we do other stuff? Can we switch this around?
I want to know more about the horses. I feel like I need a spin-off book.
We need a novella, like the horseman, like 2.0, and then like just the horse's thoughts, and it can be the same, you know, because it's the same story, so it can be the same thoughts. I would still love to hear horse thoughts. You know, like what did Pestilence horse think? What did War's horse think? And what did?
Maybe it's the same horse. It keeps getting, you know.
Responds. It just responds.
Reincarnated or whatever.
Like the Red Dead Redemption.
Because he's like, oh, I don't know where the horse goes at night. Whatever, he does his own thing.
The horse teleports to go hang out with the other horses. All the horses hang out when they're not with their horsemen. They're like, oh, he's gonna go to sleep. Okay. Hey, what's up, guys?
Can you imagine the horses being like, he's got this chick now. Bets. How many nights will it take? For him? And Pestilence horse is like 2 nights, and then Wars is like 2 weeks.
Yeah, like they're talking shit or something. Like they're just kind of like watching it happen. That'd be pretty cool.
Like, oh fuck, ahora tengo que cargar a 2 personas.
Do any of you also get tired of just having your riders like weird erection pressed up against you whenever they ride behind the lady? It's so awkward.
Weird. Oh, I miss the days when it was just the 2 of us, just murdering humanity.
I never needed to know that his dick ever could do anything. Now it's just doing things all the time. That's not good for my back. This bitch.
And they probably can't make real horse friends, you know, like all the mares would be like Okay, who's your rider? No, thank you.
No, because there's some dumbass horse ladies that are like, oh my god, look at that,
Yeah,
look at
those
that
are the horse ladies that write to horses and horse.
There's a horse version of Anna who's like, he's a wild stallion, but you know he's got such a light underbelly. Like I'm sure he gave me some hay the other day.
Oh, look at his glorious caramel ponytail.
His mane, his teeth are so straight.
Listen, I want someone. You know what? Making a note. Fan fiction. I'm gonna kick up my fan fiction account, and I'm gonna do the Horseman books, but it's the horses POVs. Horse POV. Let me see. Yeah, that's the only question I had. I am down for a horse book though. So yeah, that's it. Do you have any kind of like final thoughts, Drea, or?
No, I'm just yeah, I'm looking forward to probably, I guess, next year, seeing how it all ends. I mean, she said that like definitively this will be the last book.
So do you think that Death is gonna find like a twink to
I'm curious. I don't know what's going to happen with Death. I'm more curious. Like, I would like to see a reunion between all the horsemen. I am here for that. Especially because from the context we've been given, they like never talk to each other, and it's super awkward if they run into each other. So like, I just think it would be funny to see them team up. And I also want to see if this like mysterious, like godly person, creature, whatever, makes an appearance. You know what I mean? Like, this voice who's been like intervening or whatever. Like I just want that like God character to come out and be like, yeah, I picked out these ladies for you guys. Dumb horsing. You know what I mean? Like I've been pulling the strings. Except that would make me mad because it wouldn't make any sense. I don't know. I just feel like I just want it to make sense by the end. So I feel like in order for it to make sense, the God character has to make an appearance and kind of explain themselves, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
We'll see. That sounds like some super, like the TV show Supernatural, like level. God just shows up. I know, but it's just like the most cringiest cliche ending possible. And then Carry On Wayward Son starts playing, and then
I did like, and I forgot to bring this up earlier, but I did like the whole like scale thing. Like I like that moment when he was like, wait, the scale just does what I tell it to in my mind.
Oh shit, I've been killing millions of people because I felt like it. Oh
yeah, like that was something that I wish they had like gone into a little more, just because I think it'll tie at the end toward like who's actually pulling the strings. Like, is there like a god that's like mind controlling them, or do they just get like thrown into earth with like super vague instructions and then they just like do what they think? Like how much free will do these horsemen have? That's what I want to know.
Is this all just something about nature versus nurture? Is that what this is? Is it a study?
I just feel like if it were the case, he wouldn't have given them dicks. You know, like in Dogma, where the angels are just like flat. They don't have any genitalia. And I'm like, I don't know. It does sound like somebody else is pulling the strings. We will find out when Drea picks the last. I know me and Tasha aren't going to do it. So we're counting on Drea to pick the last book so we can
but like find out. Aren't you even a little bit invested now? Don't you want to see this to the end?
I sure don't. I'll do it for you, but I don't like this series. But I'm here for the ride with you. I'm not swimming against the current anymore. This is probably the worst thing I've read this month, but I knew that I was going to talk about it with you, so that was the only redeeming thing.
At least know that the other books that I have picked for the year are vastly different.
Yeah. They can be bad and
more representative of my actual reading taste.
You said it yourself. There's just something about these horsemen.
No, dude. Just all else fails. Remember 50 Shades of Alice in Wonderland. And
we all have that one book. This is yours, Drea, and it's fine.
Mine is just a whole series,
Yeah.
but yes.
I'm sure
There
there's
aren't
a
any
whole
mushroom
series out there.
monsters. They're like weird.
Okay, so let's wrap it up. That is our discussion on Famine. Next month is my pick, and I'm picking something that I've already read before because I wanted to reread it. And I know it's a romance, and I mean, I read it a couple of years ago, but I remember enjoying it so much. It was one of those books that I always hoped would get chosen in the vaginal fantasy pose. I always like nominated it, and it wouldn't ever win. It would just get like a couple of votes here and there. Some people I would see that we were mutuals would add it to their, list, and
Mm-hmm.
it just never happened. And I said, you know what, this is my year. So yeah, February is my birthday month and it's my pick month. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pick it. So yes, it's like a reread and it's a boy author. I don't know if we've read a boy author before, but it's a man. It's a man. And it is called Cinnamon and Gunpowder. Hold on, let me pull it up. And I think, yeah. Yeah, it is called Cinnamon and Gunpowder by Eli Brown. And it is the way that I put it in our Only Lovers Vagenda, kind of like inverted 1001 Nights type situation where this lady pirate kidnaps a cook and, his survival on her ship hinges on him being able to feed her and the crew. And
Wait, so the lady kidnaps the man?
yes, she kidnaps him. She is the pirate, and then he becomes the cook on
That
her
sounds so
pirate ship.
cute.
I really liked it. I remember reading it on one of these like super long weekends, but it was a long weekend because there might have been a hurricane or it was like a tropical storm and the schools were out just in case, but nothing happened. I remember sitting on the couch and reading this and really enjoying it. And then, it was one of the first books I bought on the Kindle. You know what I mean? Like that's how long ago I read it. But I still think about it a lot, and I just thought it would be nice for you guys to read it with me, and for me to kind of revisit. Is it as good as I thought it was? And once you start reading it, you're gonna immediately see why I liked it. Also because it's like diary entries. It's like written in that like a kind of style that I really like and emulated in my current writing. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to read that. If you want to read along with us, then we'll probably take the month of February to read it, and then at some point, probably by the last week, usually I'll upload our hangout on the last Monday or Tuesday of the month. So we'll figure it out. But we've been pretty good about keeping the schedule. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for hanging out with us. You can support Only Lovers Book Club by dropping some change in our tip jar and buying some books with our bookshop link. You can find us on Instagram at Only Lovers Book Club, and from there, find our individual accounts and projects. Feel free to favorite or rate us if that's an option for you, but always make sure to like and subscribe and turn on your notifications so you never miss an episode.